Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a past, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one. Working hella hard until I get just what I want, yeah. Rises like the sun, yeah, fatal like a gun. Shooter's gonna shoot and I'm gonna shoot until I've won, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. Grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a past, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a past, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be numb.
Good morning, everyone. Actually, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you may be. Please shorten my cursey word. Oh, yes, I did shorten my cursey word. I was going to type it out and I was like, nah, I don't want to be that vulgar this early in the day. So I don't know what is going on with this internet. Not only is it hotter than Hades already, it's supposed to get up to 100 here, which is not cool, literally. And I'm already aggravated because I'm hot, even though I have the AC on. It's gross. So I'm waiting on my dad to get out of work so he can help me put the AC in the kitten room, because I kept it pretty decent yesterday without an AC, but I mean, 100 degrees, that's just crazy. But the afternoon sun isn't shining in their room because they're on the other side of the house. So hopefully it won't be too bad until my dad can get here to help me, because the AC in the kitten room is way too big for me to do myself. So, hello, Outlaw and Sinner, hello. I know a lot of people are covering the Rudy press conference, which I feel like I don't even understand that whole thing. It's very confusing, and what I heard, it was a little too much. So as I was going through, I did have updates on the other cases that I'm following. However, as I was going through, I saw this story of these initially there were 2 firefighters that were missing. They were unaccounted for. And this morning, when I finally logged on, I saw that 2 firefighters had lost their lives battling a container ship fire in Port Newark in New Jersey. So I decided to talk about this instead, because not that Rudy isn't important, but it is, as Team Brittany, it's sickening if what they're saying is true. However, the whole thing is so sus, like it's just too much. And so I'm going to stick to, the smaller cases that may not get the exposure or attention. So, hello, Amy. Oh, there's another case you'd like to see covered? Is it one that you let me know about? Because if it is and I forgot, please remind me again. Because I just feel like, there was a lull. At one point there was a lull and I was like, oh, what cases am I going to talk about? And so I was looking around, I was looking for different cases. I found one that I wanted to talk about. And then within hours, there was like so many more things happening. So good morning, Kelsey, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. So what I have today is there's just 2 videos. And the first video is from this morning, but they cover a lot of what happened last night. And then the second video is a little bit longer. It's the press conference that officials gave this morning in regards to the firefighters who were lost. So let's hope that my computer doesn't decide to be a douchebag like it was 10 minutes ago and actually does what I want it to do, because that was so frustrating. So here we have, I just put together this little collage. These are the 2 firemen who sadly lost their lives in this, and then just some other photos from the scene that give an idea of what was happening. The fire is believed to have been on the 10th floor of the shipping container. And I don't know a lot more details than that, because like I said, I saw the story and said, I want to talk about this. So we're going to get right into it. And so again, this was from this morning. However, they cover the press conference that officials gave last night. And let me just make sure. Oh, come on, computer. right, well, we'll just wait a minute and hope that there we go. You can do it, computer. You can do it.
We have live team coverage after the death of 2 firefighters who were battling a cargo ship fire.
Okay.
Newark. Our crews on the ground are gathering the very latest information about the ship and the fire. Let's start with CBS 2's John Diaz. John?
Yeah, well, Sydney, we are told that the mayor as well as the fire chief will be updating us in about an hour from now about this fatal fire. But the fire chief, though, has been saying that this is a different type of fire that they are used to battling. If you take a live look right over here, you can see that this fireboat is still out here, still using its hose to spray just a ton of water here on this fire that just, really was just so large earlier this morning. We've been out here all throughout the morning. We were watching as smoke was just billowing up into the sky throughout the day. But as you can see, they are getting the upper hand now. And Governor Phil Murphy, not too long ago, issuing a statement saying that his heart is heavy. And this is just a tragedy that is a painful reminder of the dangers our firefighters face and their remarkable courage. Now, take a look here at this video. Earlier this morning, we saw more than a dozen people running frantically off the ship. Then we saw large blazes coming off the roof deck as firefighters were working to extinguish the fire. A public safety spokesperson tells us that the main body of the fire has been put out, but crews are still working really hard to get it completely under control. It all started.
Oh, so here it looks like these are possibly the 2 firemen after they had been located, just based on all of them standing at attention.
Around 9:30 last night on the 10th floor of a ship docked in Port Newark by Corbin and Marsh Streets. Officials tell us that multiple vehicles on the ship caught on fire, and the fire then spread to the 2 floors above. 2 firefighters died while trying to put it out.
Our prayers go out to them, to their families, to their brothers and sisters in the fire department who fought beside them tonight, and probably many fires before this one. I saw the kind of acts of bravery and camaraderie today that's unparalleled, and it's very, very, very traumatic for all of us.
It's unfortunate when we have loss. This is a tragedy. This is something that I as a chief, never want to face, but we have to be there. We have to be strong for the family.
Fire officials, they tell us that both firefighters who died were part of the team of original first responders, and they went missing when intense heat pushed them all back out of the area. The other firefighters called for help up and down the East Coast, but hours later, those 2 firefighters, they were found and they were pronounced dead at the scene. And earlier this morning, there was a procession for those 2 falling firefighters, which went from the port to a nearby hospital. And Sydney, still no word yet on how exactly this fire started.
John, do we know anything more about the 2 firefighters?
Yeah, well, Sydney, as we mentioned, we are told that both the mayor of Newark as well as the fire chief are expected to be updating us in about an hour from now. So hopefully they will be giving us more details about who exactly these men were. But really the only thing we can confirm right now is they both were from the Newark Fire Department.
John Diaz reporting from Newark. John, thank you.
So that is so sad. And I was wondering about the cars because I could see like the outline of cars. So it's curious as to why the car or cars caught on fire. Yeah. So it's really sad. So this is the press conference from this morning. It's about 40 minutes long, and so we'll watch this together, discuss, and then I will give some closing remarks. Not sure if there were Teslas, but that is a good question. And my computer again is being not cooperative. So we'll just give it a minute to buffer. And I don't understand. It worked completely fine before I went live. You know what? Let me try stop sharing and then resharing. Sometimes that helps.
Good morning, I'm Mike Marza in the Eyewitness Newsroom, and we are coming on the air because 2 Newark firefighters have been killed battling a massive fire that broke out on a cargo ship that was docked at Port Newark. This is a
wow. So that is a huge boat. And so this is where, from the other view, you could see the car outline, and so the firemen were walking atop here. So just very interesting. What could have caused it?
live look at that firefight as it continues. Newscopter 7 above the scene there at Port Newark. We knew the flames started around 9:30 last night at the ship at Export Street and Marsh Street in Newark. And these flames started on the 10th deck of the ship as we take a closer look at all of the vehicles that are on the top deck.
Wow, so they're just packed in. And I'm wondering if they were only on this top deck or if there were cars below. Just interesting.
And it was at that moment as crew members were moving the cars, the vans, and trucks that the flames broke out again around 9:30 last night. 2 firefighters have died. We know many others have been injured, and they are now being treated at University Hospital. We expect to hear from Newark Mayor Ross Baraka, as well as the fire chief, Rufus Jackson, coming up in just a few moments. There you can see the podium where media members are awaiting an update here at the 10 a.m. hour. But I want to begin with news reporter, Eyewitness News reporter Derek Waller, who's been there all morning at this ship. And it was around the 6:30 hour, Derek, that you mentioned you heard an explosion, a pop, an explosion coming from one of those vehicles as that fire continued to burn. Can you just update us on what is happening right now with the firefight?
Yeah, right now we are more than 12 hours into this firefight, and I'll show you what it looks like behind me. They are still shooting water onto this massive cargo ship, this Italian cargo ship that's docked here at Port Newark. You can see multiple streams of water. Also, there's actually firefighters on top of the deck as well with hoses extended. So they've had this under control, they tell us, for several hours, but that only means that they don't need additional crews. The firefight will continue for some time. And as you mentioned, there was that explosion around 6:30 this morning. That sounded like one of the cars that was exploding, and we saw a huge ball of fire from that as well. So that's one of the issues here, is that they've got all this combustible material nearby. So as they're trying to put out the origin of the fire, there are other smaller fires that are popping up as well. I think we have some more video from overnight as well, showing this firefight. Again, this started around 9:30 last night here on board the Gran Costa di Vorio. This is an Italian cargo ship that's actually carrying thousands of cars. These are
so there's my answer. There are thousands of cars on this Italian vessel.
Used cars that they're actually from the port of Newark over to West Africa, and several of those cars actually caught fire around 9:30 last night. Firefighters from Newark, as well as other departments and also fire personnel on the ship, responded to this, and tragically 2 of those Newark firefighters got
Okay, so of course my computer has to act up. I tried to make the screen bigger, and now it's thinking. So maybe it's not my internet. Maybe it's StreamYard that's acting up. Oh, good. Now it's just going black. Perfect.
Trapped in those flames as they became overwhelmed by those flames, and their bodies were actually found on the ship. So that is the devastating news that we brought you this morning. We also know that about a dozen other firefighters were taken to the hospital with various injuries. And again, as we wait for that news conference, that update at 10 o'clock this morning in this hour from the mayor and the fire chief, let's go to what they had to say overnight.
This is not a common fire for the city of Newark and it's the Newark firefighters. Uh, but it's in this city, and we have members, brave men and women of the Newark Fire Department that go out and they put these uniform on, and they're they fight fires and protect home and save life in the city of Newark every single day. And just like, although this is a difficult fire, it's a different type of fire, they're still willing to put themselves on the line.
It's about 5,000 cars on the boat, just to get a perspective.
Holy. Okay, so now you said 5,000 cars. That's incredible. That's like, and again, like perspective wise, this obviously this vessel is huge, but thinking about 5,000 cars, that's insane.
Perspective of what we're talking about here. It's a very huge structure that these guys had to breach. And in the process, we had 2 calls for 2 maydays, and we had a response from fire service companies all over the state who came here to help us look for lost fire guys from the city of Newark who unfortunately did not make it.
And back here live at the scene as we await that new news conference from the mayor and the fire chief. You see the fire rescue of the fire operations continue this morning, more than 12 hours after this broke out. And to give you an idea of the immense response that they got to this ship, I'll tell you that the FDNY, they had their boat come over and respond to this. And also, they say the Elizabeth Fire Department, Bayonne, Hackensack, Union, South Orange, Milburn, several others as well, all responded to this. Also, the Coast Guard here as well, trying to get this fire out. And then after that, of course, the investigation will be underway to determine how this happened, how this started, and how did it end so tragically. We're also awaiting to learn the names of the 2 firefighters that were killed in this. Understandably, they want to make sure that their family members are aware first before they alert the media. They don't want their family turning on the news and finding out that way. So a lot that we don't know right now, but the breaking news, 2 firefighters killed, and we are awaiting that press conference from the mayor and the fire chief. Mike, I'll send it back to you.
Derek, keep us posted from the ground. As you say, that news conference expected to begin in just a few moments. But from Newscopter 7, you can see Grimaldi lines on the side of the ship. That is the company that owns it. Let's hear from the mayor now about what we know at this point.
It's a sad day for all of us in Newark. Our hearts are broken by the tragedy that we've experienced last night. All night and this morning, I keep having the images of 2 firefighters being lowered down from a pulley from a ship that had to be at least 150 feet or so high. And firefighters lined up on both sides as their fallen brother is taken into the hospital. That image will forever be stamped in my mind of how dangerous this job is and how precarious things can be for our men and women of the fire service as they do their best to save people's lives and property. I saw the best of our city last night. Firefighters struggling through intense heat and unimaginable conditions to try to extinguish a fire that had the potential to cause major damage to not just the cargo ship, but impact the operation of the entire port. More than that, I saw Newark's bravest struggling with every ounce of their strength and every measure of their training to rescue and save their brothers who had been trapped. There are no words to describe the courage I saw. There are no words to describe our firefighters' passionate commitment to each other. There are no words to describe their love for one another. But none heart can be broken as much as the families of Augusto Akabu and Wayne Brooks Jr. Our hearts go out to them and their family members and the brothers and sisters of the fire service who had to see them in their last moments. Our hearts go out to all those who grieve with us today, the tremendous loss that we experience as a city, as a whole. Then there's nothing I can say to lessen the pain that everyone feels right now. I just want the world to know that we just lost two of our best here in the city of Newark, two of our bravest here in this city who, without hesitation, gave their lives. And probably that morning didn't think that they would be fighting a fire on a ship of 5,000 cars, something that they had not trained for, and would not return home that evening. We're going to do our best to get through this, as we always do. There is more information. Obviously, the investigation is ensuing as we speak. And I'll allow the public safety director and the chief of fire to give us more information about the particulars of those things before we open up the questions.
Good morning. First, we'd like to offer our heartfelt condolences to the families of the two firefighters that lost their lives last night. Firefighters are a distinct group of men and women. When everyone is running out of a building or a facility during a fire, they run in to save lives. Truly, the heroism of Augusta Akabu and Wayne Brooks Jr. are two heroes of New York City's fire department. They went into the flame doing their jobs. Just that morning, Chief Jackson, earlier that day, had inspections and had conversations about safety and what the consequences of our job is. The firefighters last night, they displayed what it is to truly be a firefighter, and they paid the ultimate sacrifice. We have to continue to keep the families in our prayers and thoughts, to continue to support them. This is a long journey to recovery. We also have to support the firefighters that were in this ordeal. They lost one of their brothers, our brothers, a part of this family, of this city. We are the community, and the community is us, is what we always say here in the city of Newark. I'm most grateful for all the departments that provided mutual aid. It's all the counties that came through: Essex County, Bergen County, Union County, Hudson County, New York City Fire Department. All the brothers in fire came together to assist in trying to put this fire out. During that process, once again, we must extend the thoughts and prayers to all the families. We had a total of 5 firefighters that were injured, that are recovering right now. I'll turn it over to Chief Jackson for his remarks and the step-by-step of the events from last night. Chief Jackson.
And just to welcome, thank you everyone for being here. If you're just coming in, this is a press conference from this morning updating all of us on a deadly ship fire that took the lives of 2 firefighters. And as we just heard, 55 others were injured in their attempt to get the fire under control.
It's a tough day for the Newark Fire Department. Let's try to get through this. But first and foremost, I want to send my sincere prayers to the family of Wayne Brooks and firefighter Akabu Augusta. Firefighter Akabu was a 45-year-old male, 9 years on the job. He worked at Engine 16, which is in the east section of Newark. Firefighter Wayne Brooks, 49-year-old male, worked at Engine 16, also in the east section of the city. These firefighters, you know, we go out and we do this profession, and we leave our house every day. We come to the cities that we love and work for the fire service to protect the citizens, the visitors of the community. And you know, we think and we hope that each day we go out, that we return. Uh, and this is like an ultimate sacrifice of the fire service, to lose a brother or a sister of this profession for doing something that we protect, doing something that we love, which is protecting the citizens of Newark. I want to say, may God bless them with eternal peace in heaven. For our fallen brothers, I ask that each and every one of us, not only the ones who are standing in front of me, but the citizens of Newark, the communities throughout our country, to which the fire service is not just a municipality. It's a brotherhood, a sisterhood throughout the country, and I ask that each of them pray for our brothers, firefighter Brooks and firefighter Ackerman. I just want to get into a little bit of what took place last night. So approximately 9:30 or 9:25, we got a call for a fire on Marsh Street in the eastern section of the city. When the companies arrived, there was a large shipping vessel, which had, like the director said, approximately 5,000 cars on it. It was approximately 12 stories high. The members went in, like we always do, to try to make a bad situation better, and went in to extinguish this fire. And somewhere around the 10th and 11th floor, which was on fire, 10th, 11th, and 12th, with vehicles, they began to extinguish this fire. And there was a mayday. We had one of our brothers was lost within the fire. And we had the brave men and women of the Newark Fire Department made the ultimate sacrifice to bring this individuals out. And they made multiple efforts under extreme conditions, extreme heat, and they were able to bring firefighter Akabu out. And then we had another mayday, which was firefighter Wayne Brooks. And under extreme conditions, again, with the help of the UASI region rescues, there's approximately 11 of them throughout the state of New Jersey, with the assistance of New York City rescue units, with the assistance of multiple county fire departments throughout the state, we were able to get the job done and bring firefighter Brooks out of the building. But it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that they succumbed to the injuries which were sustained at this incident. I ask that we continue to pray for them, to pray for their families. There's a long road ahead of us, and I'm praying that that somehow we could get through this and continue to be able to do the things that we love, which is one, becoming a firefighter, and one, protecting our communities and making the everyone's life a lot safer throughout. Thank you.
Oh, my heart breaks for that man and for all of those who were not only a part of Engine 16, but for those firefighters who were there and who lost two of their own.
It's still early in the incident, and it's still under investigation. We have the Essex County Prosecutor's Office who will do intense investigation along with the ATF, and we'll get further information, but we do believe that the maydays that were heard were the individuals.
Chief, do you know the two firefighters personally, and do you have any, and if so, do you have any personal memories that you're going to hold on to?
Prior to me becoming the chief of Newark Fire Department, I was a deputy chief, and my assignment was Tour 1. And Tour 1 was working yesterday. So to answer your question, yes, I've worked with them for over 6 years as their deputy chief before I became the chief. And like the director spoke about, just yesterday, I did inspections on specialized equipment that we have. We have 2 vessels that are parked down there at the dock in the east. And then we have other specialized units like the rescue, hazmat, that we man throughout the city. So periodically I do inspections of those pieces of equipment. And I had the opportunity of speaking to them yesterday afternoon as a company. And it's so many memories. They made my job a lot easier when I was a tour commander, because I had dedicated, committed firefighters like that they, when we did have incidents, they were easily mitigated. And it just breaks my heart to see, to witness that last night.
How hard does this hit you and your department, and how are you guys able?
Okay, so I'm just going to stop it here for a second, because these reporters, I understand it's their job to ask questions. However, I find it in poor taste, especially less than 24 hours after this happened, to ask these types of questions. Because, in my opinion, the answers should be obvious based on anyone who has experienced loss. I just find it in such poor taste.
Able to keep the strength up to continue doing your jobs.
One thing about firefighters, or even public safety as a whole, police, fire, EMS, what I know is, and what I've learned over my years in this service is that they or we have resilience, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be a long road, but somehow we continue to do, what we love to do, which is protecting our communities.
And fighting fires in buildings and homes is one thing. You guys do that a lot. How is it different to fight a fire on a ship? And that's a whole different structure. The complexities in it.
It's definitely a different structure, a different type of firefighting. This vessel was unique because it's not like it's a residential ship or a yacht of some sort with some type of living quarters. This one was unique because it was a vessel that hauled cars, vehicles, a large amount of vehicles. So this was definitely a unique fire for us. All right.
When's the last time a firefighter?
2007. 2007.
It was mentioned that firefighters were prepared for this, that they were trained for this. Does the fire department ever train at the port? Whose purview is the port to usually respond to the basic port fire?
Right. So years ago, I'm not sure, and forgive me, I'm not sure how far back we did train on shipboard firefighting, but it was, like I said earlier, it was a different type of a vessel, not a car vessel, a vessel that hauls cars. It was a vessel that had compartments, living quarters, and stuff like that. But it was some time ago, and the department, just like every, I think, department throughout the country, there's a big turnover of firefighters where you have a large number of members retiring all at once, and then you get an influx of new firefighters. And a department of this size, training just don't happen overnight. It's a long process. It's a long on job learning environment that we build and that we build on.
Can you tell us how many firefighters were injured and what the extent of their injuries were?
Excuse me?
How many firefighters were injured and the extent of their injuries?
Yeah, we have a total of 5 firefighters that was injured.
Okay, so that's different. I thought earlier that the news report had said 55 were injured. Now they're confirming only 5 were injured, which again, I say only 5, but that's 5 too many.
One had burns to his feet. We had one with heat exhaustion and one with respiratory distress. Those were the 3 Newark firefighters. And then we had members who came over from mutual aid to assist from Elizabeth Fire Department. And there was a total of 2 members with smoke inhalation and heat exhaustion.
You mentioned the FDY helped locate the 2 men that died.
Yes.
Can you confirm that one of them was an FDY rescue boss that located one of them?
I wouldn't say just one person. This is not a one person's job. This is a team job. And I would say the New York Fire Department as a whole, their rescue unit did come over and assist. For those who don't know, when you deal with fire, it's extremely, extremely hot. And everyone sees the temperature today, right? All right. So just imagine trying to, even if it was a storefront, imagine trying to make your way through there with 45 pounds of gear, layers of clothing to protect you from the heat. So there's an extreme. And you have a bottle on your back that you're only going to get like 10 minutes from. So we constantly have to rotate people in and out. We have to have safety precautions. There are people to stand by. And that's what took place on this day, on last night. It was a long process, and we were thankful that we had our mutual aid resources in the city who were able to allow us to continue to search, continue to look, continue to, all right?
Let me say something to that. I want to respond to that as well. I sat there and watched firefighters come out of a fire, take all of their things off, and complete exhaustion from the point of passing out, then putting the stuff back on minutes later and getting in line to go back in again. I saw this over and over and over again. People fought to try to get in there as other units came to relieve them. It would have been virtually impossible for the Newark Fire Department by itself to finish this operation without the help of the mutual aid of the folks around this area. So I wouldn't just highlight New York, I would highlight everybody who I saw there, small towns like North Hudson, like Bayonne, Milburn, small towns like Elizabeth next door that came and threw their firefighters in there without question and came out of there the same way our guys came out of there, in full exhaustion, soot all over their face, falling to the ground almost, trying to get that stuff off of them to go in and out of there all night long. I got to the scene maybe 10, 11 o'clock. I left there almost 4 o'clock in the morning, and the fire was still going on, and guys were still on the boat as we took our firefighters out of there to move them to the hospital. So I just wanted to give you context of what's actually happening here while they're out there fighting that fire.
And Mayor Chief, can you talk about I know this is very early on, so do you feel that the city and local cities would actually benefit from having an actual fire department or fire staff there at Port Authority?
They have the Port Authority has a small, we call it a brigade, a small crew that fight smaller fires.
when they have structural fires or big fires of this sort, they always call Newark. Newark comes out. Our folks are down there meeting with Port Authority folks right now. That's a long conversation that we're going to have from now until we get some real resolution to what needs to be done as we move forward.
Sir, I'm sorry, I walked in a little late. So there's no real specialized unit fighting a fire like this off of a ship, on a ship like that, right?
There's no specialized unit that Port Authority has, no. This is a fire that took place on Port Authority property. They call us when there are big structural fires. We come out to assist them in extinguishing these fires. Obviously, this became an issue where they just didn't have the capacity at all to deal with what was going on. So we had to take full control.
Is there a state agency, like for instance, state police or any other, that would provide training of such for fire departments across the states to deal with ship fires, container fires, etc.?
Yes, there is. The UIC region, they do have training for shipboard firefighting, and also through port security. There's training out there for this. Like I said, go ahead.
Do you have the approximate? You mentioned 9:25 was the first call, then you had 2 subsequent Mayday calls. Do you know what time those Mayday calls were?
The Mayday calls came in. So I don't have it right here right now, but we're not going to get into specifics right now because it's still under investigation. All right.
And again, asking the chief when the Mayday calls came in my opinion, is in poor taste, and I would find it offensive. And that's just my opinion. It's just disgusting to me. And like I said, I know media have to do, but there is a way to have a little more class.
The city, will this tragedy spur conversations about what can or cannot be stored at shipyards? Has the company owns the shipping container been in communication with the city on these things before?
Yeah, they're in the process of doing that now. Like the mayor said earlier, there are people down there right now communicating with the shipboard execs and whoever else is down there concerning these matters.
Chief,
hold on one second. Hold on one second.
In reference to all the questions on process and procedure and how we're going to go forward, anytime there's a critical incident, no matter what the ramifications, we do our own analysis of how we did as a fire department and how all the other entities perform. So once that process goes through, we'll review all the things that we can and cannot do better. So whatever concerns that may have happened, whether the fire got too big for one agency, the reality of it is, as the mayor said, it's always the collaborative effort of all the agencies to do a job this big. And at the end of the day, we're going to review and analyze how we did for our struggle and strive to always be better. No matter how good you do something, there's always room for improvement. So what we're doing right now is going to have the analysis, Essex County Prosecutor's Office, ATF, and possibly some of Union County Prosecutor's Office will be investigating this whole incident. As a follow-up, we'll be finding remedies to fill some of the deficiencies that we find in ourselves and in other entities going forward. So it is a work in progress. It is something that we all work towards to being better, no matter how good we may be or may think we are. There's always room for improvement. The training is conducted by UWASI, and that's also collaborative. So all the departments in the area get together, they do the trainings together, and they use the same format. Thank you for coming out here today.
I have another question. The crew of the ship, we learned from the company that owns the ship, 28 strong. When the Newark firefighters got there, the crew of the crew made rescuing, or was the crew able to self-evacuate before your team went in?
None of the crew needed rescuing. They were attempting to put the fire out themselves, and then when the fire department came aboard, we took over the scene. That will be the end of the questioning. Thank you very much for participating and assisting us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've been listening to a news conference from New York Mayor Ras Baraka, Newark Mayor Baraka, and the fire chief there in Newark, Rufus Jackson. And we now know the identities of the two firefighters who died fighting this fire overnight. 45-year-old Augusto Akabu, affectionately called Augie around the firehouse. He spent 9 years on the job, stationed at Engine 16, and his engine mate, 49-year-old Wayne Brooks Jr. His buddies called them Bears, also at Engine 16 on the east side of Newark. And Mayor Baraka describing the haunting images now seared in the minds of everybody who was on scene last night, describing the moment when the bodies of the two fallen firefighters were being lowered on a pulley from the ship and then carried out through what really became a gauntlet of grief. So many details we're learning. We understand this is a difficult fire for so many reasons, but one of the most perhaps striking is that this was a fire aboard a cargo ship that was carrying vehicles, as you can see from Newscopter 7, about 5,000 vehicles, although the company that owns this ship described more, about 1,200 new and used vehicles being carried on this ship. But that made it tough because Newark Fire Department really doesn't train for this sort of thing. Mayor Baraka really pointed to that fact. And then the fire chief said it was a number of years ago, they trained on a vessel, but it was more like a living quarters vessel, not something dealing with combustible materials like vehicles. From above, I mentioned Newscopter 7, John Del Giorno has been above as well all morning long. And John, I'm just struck by seeing the smoke still pouring out of this ship where a fire started more than 13 hours ago. What's the scene from where you are right now?
I think a lot of the difficulty here, Mike, is access and getting down to where the fire actually is. So if they're saying it's deck 10, 11, and 12, deck 12 probably being the top side deck, that means that you've got essentially 11 stories underneath. And you can see by the side of the ship, there's no windows and no doors down there to get to the fire itself. Now, over on the right side, you saw that boat from FDNY that was just dumping water on this, and that started earlier this morning. When we were on the air early this morning around 6:30, our reporter on the scene, Derek, reported hearing a pop or a boom, and then there was heavy fire and smoke coming off the top deck. I think what that was is heat down below just becoming so intense that cars on the top deck just spontaneously caught fire. I'm going to zoom in here, and it's kind of hard to get perspective.
And you can, at least I can see, it does look like this car in the middle is charred, and I'm sure others are as well, but this one towards the top of the screen in the middle next to the 7, that one to me obviously looks charred for sure.
Here, but with our graphics tool, this little ramp that you see right there, that ramp leads down to the lower deck. You can see the car there parked at the top, so that ramp goes down to the decks below, and that's where we've been seeing that thick black smoke billowing all morning. FDNY, again, they had 4 streams of water on this. I saw a tower ladder extended from the other side. The idea right now to get as much water onto this ship, really bring the temperature down, bring it, just make it cooler and take that hot burning fire away from down underneath. And then they can begin to start to make some headway here. But Mike, that's what we've been seeing all morning. You mentioned this car, this ship is partially loaded with containers there on the front, cars on the back. Initially they said 5,000. Now they're talking maybe around 1,200 cars that were loaded on still. That's a lot of vehicles on, and it's just a very difficult fire for them to access to get this extinguished once and for all.
Yeah, no doubt about that, John. When you think about just close quarters on a vessel like this, really narrow entryways, stairwells, and then the lower ceiling, because again, it is a cargo ship. Grimaldi Lines, as we see from the side of that ship, as we had a wider view, Grimaldi Group owns this ship, and it's our understanding, according to the company, this particular ship usually makes runs between the U.S. and West Africa, and it was in the process, crew members were, of loading this somewhere around 1,000 or 1,200 new and used vehicles. And then we see the 157 containers also on the ship. And it was around 9:30 last night that somehow, some way, this fire started. The company also saying that it is their belief right now that there were no lithium-ion batteries. Of course, here in New York especially, we've been talking about the dangers of lithium-ion batteries. I'm curious, though, from your point, you mentioned the FDNY fireboat. At one point this morning, after it was about 5:20, they determined that the fire was, quote, under control, meaning they didn't need to bring anybody else to help fight the fire. Everybody they needed was there on scene. Do we know what the thought is now? Is this one of these situations where they're just going to have to let this fire burn out before they can really do anything because of where the fire is still burning?
Well, Mike, it's got to be a difficult scenario. I was thinking about this, and I don't know. I'm not a firefighting expert, but the other factor you have to have, Mike, is that they're dumping water onto this ship. So the more water that goes onto the ship, the more water that goes down below decks, and that's going to create a problem in and of itself. So I think right now they're trying to find that balance. They've got to put as much water onto the ship as they possibly can to bring the temperatures down and take those scalding hot temperatures away. The easiest way to do that is from that fireboat. You mentioned also they were loading cars. I want to point this out. If you travel on the New Jersey Turnpike past Port Newark, this is a pretty common sight there, just on the south side of the bridge. You see the car carrier ships that are lined up. That ramp that you see, there are workers that literally just drive these cars on and off the ship. They drive on, and then inside of the ship, basically, it's a structure like a parking deck. They can go up and down, eventually all the way up as far as the roof. And that's what they were working last night when this fire broke out. But Mike, back to your initial question here, I think the idea, we've seen them pull back a little bit on the water. And I would imagine what's happening now is you're just trying to assess what is still burning down inside. I haven't seen anybody actually on the top deck of this boat since about 6:30 this morning. When we first started our coverage, there were about 4 or 5 hand lines extended up there. We haven't seen that since those cars caught fire on the roof around 6:30, and I would imagine conditions down there became pretty intense.
Del Giorno in Newscopter 7. We will see you likely in the noon hour.
Oh, and here you can actually see, this is actually the car I was talking about. This one right in the center of the screen is the one that looks the most damaged by fire. So I just find that curious in itself. Not that the other ones aren't damaged as well, but this one seems the most significant.
Right here on TV, John, thank you. We want to go to University Hospital now, where Tom Negevin is outside. We understand from officials, the mayor and the fire chief, Tom, that 5 people have been injured, 3 firefighters from Newark and 2 out of Elizabeth. What are those conditions? We heard the official describe some of the things that they're being treated for right now.
You know, an array of injuries, Mike. It sounds like some smoke inhalation, some minor burns to the feet, but all things considered, a pretty good outcome injury-wise, a heartbreaking outcome overall, as you heard the mayor and fire chief and public safety director here in Newark talking about just a short time ago. We're in a bit of a lull here right now as people were waiting for that new information, for that update. Firefighters here waiting for news about their injured colleagues. I think they anticipated the news, Mike, would be a lot worse than it turned out to be. The injuries more severe and more numerous, not just from Newark Fire, but from the mutual aid departments in the area, Elizabeth, South Orange, etc., that stepped in, answered those 2 Mayday calls and rushed in to help. We know FDNY helped out with a Marine unit that has been, I think until recently, pouring water down, may still be pouring water down onto that ship. No injuries among members of the FDNY. We do know that. Which is another bit of good news on a horrible, horrible day, summed up very well by Newark's mayor and by Newark Fire Chief Rufus Jackson. Have a listen.
I want to send my sincere prayers to the family of Wayne Brooks and firefighter Akabu Augusta. Firefighter Akabu was a 45-year-old male, 9 years on the job. He worked at Engine 16, which is in the east section of Newark. Firefighter Wayne Brooks, 49-year-old male, worked at Engine 16, also in the east section of the city. And this is like an ultimate sacrifice of the fire service, to lose a brother or a sister of this profession.
An incredibly active scene here throughout the day. Overnight, a lot of firefighters gathering here, waiting for word on their colleagues. Now, very, very quiet. That word has come, obviously, 2 fatalities. Heartbreaking, impossible for folks here to bear. The injury toll lighter than some firefighters were expecting, I think, and they're taking some solace in that today, Mike.
No doubt about that, Tom. Tom, thank you. I want to bring in now former Jersey City Fire Chief Stephen McGill. And first of all, Chief, I want to share our condolences here at Channel 7 with you. I know you're friends with Rufus Jackson. It is such a horrible, heavy day. And I want to get your perspective here because this is something really unfamiliar to all of us, but maybe particularly to those who usually fight these fires. We heard the mayor mention this is not something you necessarily train for, certainly not regularly. And you told us this morning on Eyewitness News this morning that this is like fighting a fire in a high rise that is moving. How challenging were these conditions that these firefighters were facing?
Very challenging, especially if the fire was in the middle decks. There's only two ways to get onto that ship: the ramp that's loading the cars on from below the fire or above going down. And it looks like a lot of the fire was up high. So they were probably fighting it from two directions. But a deep-seated fire like that, very, very difficult to get to. The floors move on those ships to maximize the amount of cars they can carry on there. So right now, they probably don't know if those mechanisms are safe enough to send people back into that boat because those floors may be able to shift right now. Looks like they shut the water down on the FDNY boat, and that's probably to assess what's going on. And you got to wait for the water to drain out, so there's less weight in there, so you have less chance of anything collapsing. And then you're going to send firefighters in with hand lines and physically go in there and hit those hot spots to get that fire totally out.
And it is a firefight that continues in some way as the investigation in full throttle right now. Former Jersey City Fire Chief Stephen McGill, we appreciate your perspective. Again, thoughts are with you as all firefighters now mourning the loss of these two firefighters. Wayne Brooks Jr., he was 49 years old, and Augusto Akbu, known as Augie, 45 years old, both at Engine 16. We're going to have a full comprehensive report coming up on Eyewitness News at noon. For now, I'm Mike Marza in the Eyewitness Newsroom, and we return you to Tamron Hall.
All right, so that again was a shipping vessel fire where two Newark firefighters lost their lives last night, and 5 others were injured. I will continue to follow this as news may come out. And I say Godspeed to those who lost their lives. And until next time, y'all, I will see you on the flip side.